Marky Mark might be known for his good vibrations, but what if he's more known for the bad vibes he sends out in feuds with others? He's feuded with Dr. Oz, Leonardo DiCaprio, David Beckham, Harry Styles, and more. And you've got to wonder who was in the right or wrong at this point. Friends to foes? David Beckham and Mark Wahlberg's drama is a long-winded one. So the soccer legend filed a lawsuit against F45 Fitness, which the Oscar-nominated actor is part owner of. For context, Mark Wahlberg invested in the company in 2019 and became the chief branding officer in 2023. Now during that time, David Beckham entered into a promotional agreement with the fitness brand through his company, DB Ventures Limited. I think this was around 2021. But on April 21st, 2024, it was reported that David Beckham was suing F45 or F45 after claiming that he never received the $10 million he was offered in contract negotiations when partnering with the brand. The complaint said that the Australian-based fitness company agreed to pay Beckham $1.5 million a year, along with shares of stock in the company, which would be available to him 6 months and again 12 months after the company went public. However, the Inter Miami owner's attorneys alleged that the company failed to transfer and register the shares until about 8 months after the agreed upon date. His attorneys also said the shares were worth about $9.3 million less than they were in January of 2022. So Beckham is suing for $9.3 million for his loss of shares, plus an additional $5 million. Beckham is also seeking $4.5 million for payments he alleged he was to receive for the remainder of his term. Now, the company's lawyers have responded to Beckham's complaint in court documents, denying multiple allegations, and they claim that he has not fully performed his obligations. Until we know more, this seems like a mess where both guys might be in the wrong. So back when Mark was known as the famed rapper Marky Mark, he apparently got into it with Eminem of all people. So Eminem opened up on the feud, explaining that it all came to a head in 1999 on TRL. Speaking with Anthony Bozza in the book Whatever You Say I Am, The Life and Times of Eminem, he explained he was told by MTV that he was going to be on the show with Wahlberg, and they were like, he'd appreciate it if we don't call him Marky Mark. So Eminem recalled Wahlberg arriving and saying, "What, is there supposed to be some sort of effing tension here or something?" And Eminem was like, "I pretended like I don't hear him and whatnot, SHIT. Then we're on the air and I'm like, we'll just stand around here like one big fun bunch. So I threw a jab at him. Eminem and Wahlberg reportedly continued to have a dislike for one another as the years went on, but apparently this is all simmered out now. They settled it in 2017. In an issue of The Hollywood Reporter, Mark Wahlberg revealed that he used to have a feud with Leonardo DiCaprio. He says he almost did get cast in 1995's The Basketball Diaries because Leo wanted him off the court. Leo was like, "Over my dead effing body. Marky Mark's not gonna be in this effing movie." Wahlberg admitted he deserved that treatment. Because we'd had a thing. I didn't even realize it, but apparently I was a bit of a phallic thing to him at a charity basketball game. So he was like, "This effing a-hole is not going to be in this movie." But Wahlberg managed to impress the Growing Pains star with his acting chops. So I come in and I do the audition and I kind of look at him and he kind of looks at me, and then we do a scene and they're like, "This effing dude's pretty good, right?" Next thing you know, boom, we're hanging out. Meh. With all that we know about Leo's creepy dating practices, it sounds like Mark was ready to butt heads with him from the get-go. So out of all the people in the world, Mark got into a fitness feud with famed TV personality Dr. Oz. The two got into it after Dr. Oz shared his thoughts on breakfast, saying that it isn't an essential meal, and explained his approach to intermittent fasting. Wahlberg, who was a big proponent of getting in a meal both before and after his early morning workouts, disagreed with Oz's perspective when asked about it by TMZ. And thus, a heated back and forth social media feud began. The men challenged each other to a workout to see if they could keep up with one another, despite their different viewpoints. And finally, Wahlberg shared that he and Oz met up face to face to do just that. He said, "I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into, but he was a trooper. I squashed him like a grape. Poor thing, he didn't know what was happening." Now, Dr. Oz has been proven to be a fraud time and time again, so that's not super surprising. So thanks for warning folks that he's hot air. One thing about Mark is that he is known for having a close-knit group of friends, one of which being Michael Jordan. And somebody who didn't know this? Kevin Hart. Hart and Wahlberg worked together on the film Me Time, which was not one of Wahlberg's many films to gross over $100 million at the box office. But apparently the guys had a great time together. But after Wahlberg found out that Hart had some unkind things to say about Jordan, an interview the two were in took a detour, and it was during this time that Wahlberg showed that he was not happy that Hart shaded his buddy. The beef between Hart and Jordan came to be when Hart did a stand-up comedy set at a charity event that Jordan was hosting. Between a bit too much booze, which is apparently one of his backstage requests before he does stand-up, and the need to get a laugh from the crowd, Hart went too far and might have permanently damaged his relationship with Jordan. He said, "Mike still might be mad at me. True story." So while he was doing the set, he's like, "Nobody's laughing." It got to the point where nobody's laughing. He's looking straight at me. He's actually giving me a look like, "You gonna keep on going? Like you ain't gonna stop?" "I don't care, I'm having a good time, I was laughing." Now Hart admitted, "I may or may not have been, well, under the influence at the time. I hit him with one more, and nobody says nothing." So it got over, and he went to go see him, and he's like, "What up, Mike? Hey." And Hart went on to say, he shook my hand, and he squeezed it real hard, and he was like, "You have a good day." Which is, never a good sign. In 2013, a series of leaked court documents suggested that Tom Cruise had compared working on a film to being as intense as fighting in the military. It's safe to say that the statement did not go down well with Mark Wahlberg. Later down the line, he was promoting his film, Lone Survivor, which is based on actual events of the failed 2005 mission, Operation Red Wings, where Mark played the role of a Navy SEAL. Now, when he was asked about the difficulty of shooting the film, he went on an angry rant, quoting, "For actors to sit there and talk about, oh, I went to SEAL training, and I slept on the, oh, I don't give an F what you did. For somebody to sit there and say my job was as difficult as somebody in the military's? How effing dare you? When you sit in a makeup chair for 2 hours?" He added that at the end of the day, actors get to go home, go to their hotel room, and order effing chicken. Now, Tom's lawyers jumped in very quickly and claimed that he was only joking. He's a very big supporter of the troops. But the tension was very real. Back in 2014, in a moment of elation following Rob Gronkowski's touchdown against the Oakland Raiders, Patriots owner Robert Kraft went out for a high five with his boxmate, yes, you guessed it, Mark Wahlberg, and his eager fingers met, well, the wind. Not only did Wahlberg decline to participate in the high five, he also snubbed not one, but 2 shoulder pokes from a desperate Kraft, who was left hanging. It seems that even the kind of rich guys whose collar and cuffs are a different color than the rest of their shirts shan't presume to high-five Lord Wahlberg. Of course, we don't know why he denied the high five. Maybe he was just really busy paying attention to football or something. The happening has been called one of the worst screw-ups of M. Night Shyamalan's career, and of course, being a part of the production also reflected badly on Mark Wahlberg. So it's no surprise that he trashed the movie relentlessly, even though he had the lead role. At first, the plot sounds like it had potential. It follows a Philadelphia high school teacher who tries to keep his wife safe during a global crisis in which plants spread a neurotoxin that causes humans to completely act out. But it was completely ridiculous. Wahlberg himself admitted that he had no idea what was happening in the happening. He just took the role because he was tired of playing tough guys. He said, "F it is what it is. Effing trees, man. You can't blame me for not wanting to try to play a science teacher. At least I wasn't playing a cop or a crook." Now, the director responded to the actor's criticism in 2019, and he really took the whole thing like a champ, saying it's totally his call, however he wants to interpret it. At least he has a good attitude about it. Family relationships can be complicated, and this is no different for high-profile celebrities as well. While internal politics between family members escape public scrutiny, if you're an ordinary person, big league Hollywood stars don't have the luxury of privacy, be it rumors or otherwise. So despite having music and acting careers and their Wahlberg's food empire, Donnie and Mark, yes, they have their separate things, they have their restaurants, but they also don't have a lot of love for each other. In August of 2014, when Donnie was set to marry Jenny McCarthy, TMZ revealed that Mark and his wife wouldn't be attending the wedding. Now, there was a lot of speculation. Is it like, are you not fans of the bride? Nope, it just turns out that the brothers aren't super duper close, and there's a lot of badness there. And finally for today, Mark appeared on The Conan Show years ago and revealed his daughter's obsession at the time with now former boy band One Direction. He was like, okay. Now, Mark being Mark, he threatened to knock the crap out of the young and blessed Harry Styles. Like, he legitimately tweeted out, if Styles doesn't watch out, he's gonna risk getting a black eye or 2. Yep, those were the days when celebrity chatter on social media was very much unregulated. Mark told Conan, "My 4-year-old's going, 'Daddy, I like Harry.' And I'm like, well, I'm gonna punch Harry in the nose when I see him." He continued to say that she pulls out pictures of Harry Styles and she's hiding the pictures in her room, and he pretends he's ripping them up and he gets jealous. And I saved his quote-unquote best line for last, but if I see that little prick, he's gonna get it. Lovely. Now, I think the most endearing part of this feud was Styles' retaliation. The UK's Daily Star reported that Harry thought this conversation was an absolute hoot, so he sent Wahlberg and his family a very special invite. Now, what did he do? Well, he sent them tickets to a show, which was, I think, super fun.
Chris Brown, Young Miami, and even Prince Harry were named in Diddy's lawsuit. Yep, you heard that right, the royal was named in this messy situation. So let's take a look at what they've all been accused from Rodney Jones and why. Starting off, we have Daphne Joy. Now, after Diddy's place got raided, rapper 50 Cent, real name Curtis Jackson III, responded on Twitter saying, "Now it's not Diddy do it, it's Diddy done. They don't come like that unless they got a case." Now, while 50 Cent was not named in the lawsuit against Combs, a woman identified as Daphne Joy, who shares a child with 50 Cent, was named in the suit. In a statement posted on Instagram, Joy responded to 50 Cent saying, "Everything is a joke until our safety is compromised, which is happening right now." Now, Joy went on to accuse 50 Cent of physically mistreating her and said, "You have broken our hearts for the last and final time." Next up is Stevie J. In addition to Joy, another celebrity named in the suit, Stevie J, Stephen Aaron Jordan, also responded to 50 Cent on social media. Stevie J hit back at 50 Cent on Instagram and said, "Since it's entertainment, let me beat the out of you on TV or something." Now, it's alleged that the Grammy winner Stevie J, Diddy's longtime collaborator, recruited and participated in Combs' freak-offs in his amended complaint filed in the U.S. District Court in the Southern District of New York, though it does not name Stevie J as a defendant. Now, Diddy is accused of instructing Stevie J to teach him the type of sex workers to solicit and the way to solicit them. It's alleged that Stevie J sent threatening messages when the plaintiff, Rodney Jones, publicly asked Combs to pay him for his work on Combs' The Love album. The complaint also says that Combs used his connection to Stevie J, Rodney's idol, to pressure Rodney into being intimate. "I've never seen my man do anything foul like they talking about. I've never seen it. I've known him for 29 years, Stevie J told TMZ earlier this month. Moving on to Young Miami. Young Miami, a member of City Girls, is mentioned in Jones's amended complaint filed in the U.S. District Court of the Southern District of New York. Now, she is not a defendant, nor is she accused misconduct. She is listed as being a part of Combs' operation and accused of bringing Diddy illegal substances on a private jet. The complaint says she was retained on a monthly stipend as one of sex workers, and it also alleges that her cousin, named as Jane Doe 1, took advantage of Rodney. Now, since the raid, she has shared numerous posts on social media, but many of the posts are promoting a new song that she is releasing. Aaron Hall, an R&B singer who was part of the group Guy, was named as a defendant in a complaint filed against Diddy last November in the New York Supreme Court ahead of the expiration date for New York's Adult Survivors Act, which provide a one-year window in which people could bring cases of SA outside the typical statute of limitations. The plaintiff, who is named Lisa Gardner, accuses Combs and Aaron Hall of SAing her and her friend in Aaron's apartment after a music industry event by MCA Records in 1990. She says Combs coerced her into being intimate with him and that afterward, Aaron barged into the room, pinned her down, and forced her to be intimate with him too. The plaintiff also alleges that Combs found her at her home and choked her until she passed out, as he was worried his girlfriend would find out about the incident, the complaint says. Now let's talk about Cuba Gooding Jr. An amended complaint filed in March in the U.S. District Court of Southern District, New York by Rodney Jones lists Cuba Gooding Jr. as a defendant. Now, Rodney accuses Cuba of harassment and SA. Specifically, Rodney accuses Combs of grooming him to pass him off to Cuba. Now, the two were left alone in a makeshift studio on a yacht rented by Combs, according to the complaint. There, Gooding began inappropriately touching Rodney. Now, it's to be known that the actor previously pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor count of forcibly touching, so this incident being real isn't shocking. Now we have Lucian Grange. The CEO of Universal Music Group and father-in-law to Sophia Richie, Lucian Grange is also listed as a defendant in Rodney's amended complaint. He's accused of aiding and abetting Combs, specifically in racketeering and trafficking. Rodney says that as CEO, Lucian had a duty to ensure the financial support they provided to Sean Combs and Love Records was not being used for drugs, and laced alcohol. Now, attorneys for Grange have filed a motion to dismiss, in which they call the accusations offensively false. In a sworn statement to the court, Grange called the accusations completely untrue and absurd, and said he plans to pursue both plaintiffs and his counsel for having made such false accusations. Now, Grange also points to the fact that he is the CEO of a multinational public company, and that he's not involved in day-to-day operation of the company's thousands of agreements. Now, in a statement to Business Insider, Grange's attorney Donald S. Zark American, called the complaint offensively reckless. The plaintiff has now attempted to amend his claims against Sir Lucian, removing the original set of outrageous falsehoods related to Sir Lucian, replacing them with wholly contradictory new falsehoods that are equally absurd, he said. Not only will we demonstrate the offensive falsity of these claims, but we will seek recovery of every penny of cost and damage caused by their assertion. Moving on to Justin Dior Combs. Justin Dior Combs, Diddy's 30-year-old son, is a defendant in Rodney's amended complaint. In a wide-range list of allegations, Rodney accuses Justin Combs of soliciting as well as engaging in freak-offs. He also says the younger and older Combs were the only two people present in the room when G, a friend of his, was shot at a recording studio, implying that one of them shot G. Now, Justin Combs was at Diddy's Los Angeles home when it was raided by feds and was seen handcuffed on the lawn outside, though he was not arrested. Justin Combs' lawyer said that the complaint was utterly bonkers on his radio show Beyond the Legal Limit. It's clearly written in an effort to get as much publicity as possible, not only for the case, but for the lawyer whose name I don't even remember, literally some maniac, he said. Then there's Prince Harry. Now, Diddy is said to have drawn guests to his infamous parties through his VIP associations with celebrities, such as famous athletes, political figures, artists, musicians, and international dignitaries like British royal Prince Harry, according to the legal notice. Now, there's no suggestion of any wrongdoing by the prince, and his name is only mentioned once in the documents as an example of a well-known celebrity associate of Combs. Now, both Harry and his brother Prince William were pictured with Combs and Kanye West in 2007 after the musicians performed in the concert for Diana at Wembley Stadium. So to reiterate, Harry has not been accused of anything. Next up are the anonymous celebrities. While there are anonymous or redacted celebrities named in the suit, it's not too difficult to figure out who they are. While Chris Brown isn't named specifically in court documents, he's referenced as one of two redacted figures, redacted R&B singer, who was specifically alleged to have been in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home consorting with girls. Now, another clue that points to it being Chris is the footnote at the bottom of the same page, which reads, a Grammy Award-winning R&B singer who had trouble with law enforcement after assaulting a Belgian billionaire. Then, like Chris, while Meek Mill wasn't named specifically in court documents, he's referenced as one of the two redacted rapper figures who was specifically and allegedly in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home consorting with girls. Now, another clue that points to it being Meek is in the footnote at the bottom of the same page, which reads, he is a Philadelphia rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. And lastly, we have Bishop T.D. Jakes. While the bishop was not alleged to have done anything illegal per court documents, he was named as one of the people Diddy allegedly intended to leverage a relationship with in order to soften the impact on his public image of Casey Venture's lawsuit. Now, Diddy and the bishop joined forces back in 2021 for an ongoing religious series entitled Kingdom Culture with T.D. Jakes. In 2022, the two were spotted together in photographs at Diddy's 53rd birthday party, which prompted an outcry and criticism on social media about the relationship between religious leaders and music figures. In late 2023, the bishop would come under fire again on social media after an unfounded report claimed that he was engaging in activity with men at Diddy's parties. Now, he addressed the Diddy rumors once in a December 2022 comment from his representatives, and again during a Christmas Eve sermon, during which he let folks know that they can log off the online broadcast of the service if they came to hear him address a lie. Well, that's all for our list of the top 10 celebrities who got exposed in Diddy's lawsuit. Now, did anyone on our list shock you?
The best list you could be on in Hollywood is a cast list, but some unlucky folks have found their way onto the blacklist, and former co-stars may have been the reason they landed there. From Clueless to Grey's Anatomy, these are the top 10 actors who got their co-stars blacklisted. Stacey Dash is a face you might recognize from the hit film Clueless. She managed to make her career crash and burn in a fashion that is almost impressive. Dash starred as the sassy, fashionable best friend to Cher in the 1995 film and was well loved by fans of the film. She did a great performance. That is her most notable role, but she had many other film and TV credits around this time. Some highlights from the fall of Stacey Dash include her saying that Black History Month shouldn't be a thing and that transgender people should go to the washroom in bushes in 2016, referring to other actors inappropriately when they try and speak up against racial injustices. That just happens randomly. She also claimed feminism is ruining men. She kind of blacklisted herself with every action she has committed in recent years. Though she has apologized for things she has said and done in the past, she is still not getting much work in Hollywood. Rebecca Ferguson has just given a killer performance in the second Dune film, and while on the press tour, she might have also killed another actor's career if she had revealed their name. Rebecca Ferguson is one of the internet's favorite actresses right now, for good reasons. She seems very grounded, smart, sweet, and just is a really good actress. So when she dropped in a recent interview that she had once been screamed at on set by an unnamed former co-star, people were quick to start combing through her films in search of the culprit. People were taking this very seriously, as Rebecca also said the encounter made her cry. The leading theory is that it was Hugh Grant that had screamed at her. People would back this theory up online with past stories from his co-stars and people who worked on set with him about how he was rude and difficult. That actually caused him to not get fully blacklisted when he was younger, but it did make him lose out on a couple roles. He did claim that the movie Did You Hear About the Morgans caused opportunities to dry up for him, claiming that Hollywood gave me up because I made such a massive turkey with that film with Sarah Jessica Parker. Whether I wanted to or not after that, the days of being a very well-paid leading man were suddenly gone overnight. It's unclear if he was the one who yelled at Ferguson, but he did for sure yell at a woman while working on the set of the movie Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Star of the 1930s, Mae West was an absolute bombshell of the era. She was known for her suggestive performances and outfits and overall bold depictions of being a woman and the female body. She was blacklisted by a pretty unexpected co-star, the Production Code Administration, or PCA. The PCA was created to censor media to uphold strict moral guidelines. It was the 30s after all. It was used to adjust American media, and that is where Mae West operated, due to her performances always having a hint of something they shouldn't. According to the PCA, many of them were censored. She was censored so many times that it was easier for a studio to just not hire the star in the first place. She was actually temporarily banned from the screen at one point. She did find a few roles through the 1940s, but from 1943 to 1960, there was little work for her on screen. It was the 1960s and 70s that took her off that blacklist again, and she made a few more films before passing in 1980. Thora Birch made a name for herself in the 1993 film Hocus Pocus as young Danny Dennison. She then began starring in various TV shows and movies and even on Broadway, but it was a 2010 Broadway contract that would cause her to lose everything. While working on the 2010 off-Broadway revival of Dracula, Birch's father allegedly threatened a castmate with physical harm, and it resulted in her being fired and not rehired for a while. The actor that was threatened remains unnamed to this day, but allegedly was involved in a scene with Birch in which he was directed to rub her back. According to Birch's father, Birch was uncomfortable with this, and the threat was meant to convey that. The director did not agree with the father's behavior, and Birch was of course fired. This isn't the only reason why Birch rarely worked though. According to the American Beauty star, she spent some time in her youth upset and upsetting others intentionally. Vanessa Marquez was known for various film credits, but most of her fame came from the TV show ER, in which Marquez starred alongside George Clooney. Marquez would actually go on to accuse Clooney of having a hand in blacklisting Vanessa from ER and Hollywood in general. Vanessa was in the TV show for 3 seasons before being let go and written off. It was unclear why, but Vanessa soon shared that George Clooney and other actors on the show had acted inappropriately towards her on the TV show set. Not saying that Clooney was the one doing it, she just named him and said that she experienced bad behavior every day while working on the show. Vanessa says she complained to someone about the on-set inappropriate actions and claims that that was the reason why she was taken off the show. So she said she was fired for complaining. George Clooney has directly acknowledged the accusations. In 2017, he said he had nothing to do with Vanessa being blacklisted and that he actually didn't even realize she was. Linda Fiorentino was at the beginning of her Hollywood journey and things looked promising. She had a considerable amount of credits in the 90s and early 2000s, including a role in the Men in Black movies. But now she has seemed to disappear and be considered a former actress. The reason for this sudden change might have had something to do with Dogma star Kevin Smith, who also wrote and directed that film. Smith went on record and destroyed Linda's reputation. She had been labeled difficult to work with, among other things. Nowadays, many people actually disagree with these claims and consider her to have been very hardworking and talented. At the time though, she just didn't have enough star power to come back from the claims set against her. Charlie Sheen was once on top of the world, even reported to have been paid just under $2 million per episode while starring in the show 2.5 Men, but he soon was blacklisted and pushed out of Hollywood, partly because of his own actions, but also former co-star and ex-wife Denise Richards accused Sheen of bad behavior, and that only added more reason to keep the man out of the game. In the year 2000, Denise Richards and Charlie Sheen met on the set of Good Advice and then began a serious relationship the next year after Richards guest starred on Spin City. The pair would end up getting married and having 2 kids, but a few years later in early 2006, Richards ended up filing for divorce, and a few months after that, taking out a restraining order against her former husband. The order required Sheen to stay 300 yards away from Richards, and he could only see their children if he was supervised. The reason Richards felt she needed the order was because she claimed that Sheen had spoken violently towards her and was rough with her physically. Sheen would later go on to be accused of similar things by other women he went on to date and marry. The actor did other things all by himself though that ended up getting him blacklisted. He used substances that are not legal and would behave poorly on sets and more. The actor had said in 2018 that he is trying to turn things around. Kevin Spacey is mainly known for his starring role on the TV show House of Cards, but like a real House of Cards, once the public caught wind of past actions, everything came crashing down. 2017 was the year of Spacey's fall from grace. Anthony Rapp, who you might recognize from the movie Rent or the TV series Star Trek Discovery, accused Spacey of acting inappropriately towards him when he was underage. The incident would have happened a few decades before 2017. Spacey was of course fired from the show House of Cards very soon after the news was released, and the show continued on for one more season without him. Rapp was not the only actor that accused Spacey of the inappropriate behavior. Soon more actors were coming forward with stories, and Spacey went to court. He was ultimately found not guilty, but the damage to his career had already been done, and the actor was blacklisted. Sandra Locke was a big star in the late 60s, early 70s, and just didn't act, but also directed too. She starred in films alongside Clint Eastwood, and the pair really hit it off, dating for quite a while. They were the it couple, starring in films like The Outlaw Josie Wales and Every Which Way But Loose. Unfortunately, the pair eventually broke up, and it was disastrous for Locke's career. They broke up in 1989, but it kind of dragged on for a few years. Eastwood had more overall star power and connections to major Hollywood elites than Locke did, or even if they were both connected to someone, it's assumed that the person would then take Eastwood's side instead of hers. Soon, Locke wasn't getting much work and was essentially blacklisted from Hollywood. While it has never been confirmed technically, many people, including Locke, believe that her blacklisting was because of Eastwood, that he used his power and connections to effectively end her career, because after the breakup, her working life went up in flames and his was completely fine. Isaiah Washington had all the potential to make it big. He was starring in a main role on an incredibly popular TV show, Dr. Preston Burke on Grey's Anatomy. He had a number of film credits under his belt before that and was just an all-around good guy, until he threw it all away. According to the book by Lynette Rice, How to Save a Life, The Inside Story of Grey's Anatomy, a fight between Washington and McDreamy, or Patrick Dempsey, broke out on set and caused the domino effect that led to Washington's firing and blacklisting from Hollywood. According to interviews in the book, one of the men was late to set one day, so the next day the other decided to get payback and be late instead. Tensions got high, and soon the two men were brawling in studio. Washington apparently pushed Dempsey up against a wall and began shouting in his face, and it wasn't until Washington brought the F word that is bad, that is used to describe gay people, that everything stopped. The word was used in context of another actor in the show who was known to be gay, so really bad. Washington ended up apologizing, but then used the word again at the Golden Globes, and like very publicly in an interview, and that was kind of the moment that cemented everything. He was gone. Other Grey's Anatomy actors condemned his behavior, and soon Washington wasn't seen much in popular media anymore. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you later. Bye! Oh my gosh. I didn't even realize I'm talking about a blacklist and I'm wearing black. Look at that. The black... Ooh. Linda for... Fiorentino? That's what we're gonna go with. Couple of Hollywood, Timothée Chalamet and Kylie Jenner, are no stranger to controversy, being accused of various things over the years, like transmitting diseases or faking documents. It's truly a wild ride trying to keep up with the two A-listers. Kylie Jenner is no stranger to the luxuries of life, like private planes. Stars do sometimes need access to private flights for security reasons, but social media was up in arms in July of 2022 after the reality TV star took a 17-minute flight. The star took her private jet a couple cities over, and people online calculated that the flight could have been a 45-minute car ride. I personally don't get the short private jet flights just because after driving to the airport, getting on the flight, taking off, touching down, getting off, driving from the airport, wouldn't that all exceed 45 minutes? You can tell I've never been on a private plane. Other social media users were quick to point out just how much carbon would have been released from the short flight, about a quarter of the average person's annual carbon footprint, or 1 ton. The 45-minute car ride would have had a significantly lower impact on the environment. This isn't even the worst flight Jenner has reportedly taken. In June, she had taken a flight that was just 9 minutes. Social media users have called out the star for this behavior, some calling her a climate criminal. July of 2020 revealed that the makeup millionaire Kylie Jenner is accused of being a bad tipper. A video shared to TikTok by a former Manhattan restaurant hostess details her opinions on different A-listers she met while working at the restaurant. The video features names like Hailey Bieber and the Hadid sisters, both talked about in positive light. Jenner, unfortunately, did not receive the same treatment. The hostess clarified that the reality TV star's behavior wasn't an issue, saying that she was fine. It was the bill at the end. The former hostess claimed that Jenner tipped $20 on a $500 bill. The former hostess ended her bit about Jenner saying, "Do with that what you will," and rated the star as a 2 out of 10 guest. This did cause some controversy online, some people agreeing that Kylie should have tipped more, around 20% instead of 4%. That would have been about a $100 tip. Others are saying that maybe the service wasn't great and $20 isn't that bad. Let me know your thoughts on the situation in the comments. Timothée Chalamet's fan base had a meltdown after videos of him smoking at the Beyonce concert he attended with Kylie went viral. The elusive Hollywood couple makes few public appearances together, so all eyes were on them at Beyonce's September 4th concert last year. Most of what was seen was just kisses and cuddles, but one particular Timothée action had fans clutching their pearls, but for good reason though. Timothée is seen in a video from the event smoking. This does break the rules of the venue, and fans were not happy about that. Timothée Chalamet smoking is not necessarily the biggest surprise. There are photos of him doing it before, lots of people in Hollywood do it, but smoking inside the stadium is definitely not very nice to those around him. This next point is like whiplash. Kylie is known for being active on social media, posting on her Instagram story frequently. For such a major star, usually posts are like planned to complement each other, but in this case, the two could not have been more different. Back in the very beginning of 2020, Jenner took to her Instagram story to raise awareness for what was happening in Australia at the time with all the devastating fires. Particularly, Jenner's Instagram story post was about the large amount of animals that had passed due to the fires and how sad that was and how people could help. It was a great message, exactly the thing to do to raise awareness. However, shortly after posting this message, Jenner posted photos of her new slippers to her story. Her new mink fur slippers, real fur. Fans thought this was an incredibly inappropriate thing to post, wearing fur right after making a big post about saving the animals in Australia. Many social media users were quick to weigh in on the controversy, one writing, "Kylie posting a story about the AU fires, then a story of her mink LV slippers is my favorite new definition of tone deaf. The slipper slip up wasn't a good look." Maybe the most hilarious of the secrets on this list would have to be the Timothée Chalamet spreading chlamydia around the NYU campus. It's not true, apparently. The reason this rumor even started is just as wild as the rumor itself. Allegedly, according to fans online, the rumor started from a fanfiction. This happened in a fanfiction, I guess, and everyone just started taking it as fact. Not to say that there is no truth to the rumor. I personally don't know him, so I can't tell you exactly what he got up to in college. Kylie's lip kits and her plastic surgery caused some ruffled feathers when it was first revealed the star received the procedures. Kylie getting exposed for receiving plastic surgery isn't necessarily that bad. She is absolutely allowed to do whatever she wants to her body, it is hers. What people had a problem with is that she was using it to sell her lip kit products. Most of the marketing for her famous lip kits was about how it would make your lips look bigger, just like Kylie's, that all you needed for the plump lip look was a Kylie Jenner lip kit. Only that wasn't true at all, even for Kylie. Her famous pout was achieved not just through makeup, but also plastic surgery. Many said this marketing was creating unrealistic expectations and was contributing contributing to body image issues among younger fans. Now Kylie is more open about the procedures she received. Kylie Jenner admitted in an interview that she uses her housekeeper as an arm model for her makeup swatches. While being interviewed by Fast Money, Kylie dropped this interesting confession. She revealed that the reason why she picked her housekeeper to show off the highlighter swatches was because she has the best arms for swatches and she's so nice and just sits there and has her arm ready and lets me do my thing. So it seems like her housekeeper enjoys being there, which thank goodness. Still, people found the entire thing a little odd and were quick to criticize the situation, especially how Kylie spoke of her housekeeper. Many said that the way Kylie was speaking about her housekeeper was akin to how one might speak of a pet, and were also pointing out that this wasn't a housekeeper's job and that they hoped Jenner at least compensated her for the modeling. Though Jenner being able to do this does indicate a good relationship, so surely her housekeeper must be fine with it. It's been happening for years, but in 2024 it was revealed again that one of Kylie's brands stole designs from a smaller business. In the post, Kylie's makeup brand had stolen photo shoot ideas from a makeup artist on Instagram, but this time it's all about Kylie's clothing line, Kai. Australian brand Johansson is known for a specific silhouette. It looks classic and it has like twisted sleeves usually, and they've actually dressed Kylie Jenner before. The owner of Johansson was surprised when Kai's new collection dropped because it looked incredibly similar to many of the company's designs. Jessica Johansson took to TikTok to express her frustration and show comparisons of the two brands side by side. From what I saw, they are almost identical. Pair that with the fact that Kylie knows the brand and has worn the clothes, it's not looking good. This isn't the first time Kai has been accused of stealing designs. Before this, in 2023, designer Betsy Johnson accused the brand of the same thing. This is not the Betsy Johnson, the American designer, this is someone else. She was a model and is from Grimsby. Johnson at this point had recently announced a line called Products and was met with praise. It featured lots of leather and made a point to look luxurious. Kylie's brand released a line that had striking similar design ideas. Turns out Johnson had sent some emails to Kylie's product team months before the drops. In an Instagram story, Johnson wrote, "We emailed Kylie and her team Products Ltd concept and language and a line sheet 6 months ago. Interesting concept, Kylie. Interesting. Thanks for the cosign." A line sheet is a tool used to showcase clothing and the info about selling it wholesale, so it probably would have had a lot of the product's designs on it. Not a good look. The summer of 2020 was the backdrop for the shocking accusation that Kendall and Kylie didn't pay their workers. Claims were made against the sisters' shared brand, Kendall and Kylie, that they weren't compensating workers in Bangladesh for their work. The alleged reason why was the COVID-19 pandemic. An article from Remake was published in June of 2020, and it was the first to bring this claim to light. Here's the thing, were Kendall and Kylie directly responsible for paying the workers? Technically no. Everything went through the company they were working with, Global Brands Group. So the claim was actually against them. The claim was that they refused to pay its garment suppliers for orders produced in February and March following a drop in sales caused by the coronavirus pandemic. The sisters did address the claims publicly in a statement on Instagram, writing, "We would like to address the unfortunate and incorrect rumor that Global Brands Group owns the Kendall and Kylie brand and that we have neglected to pay factory workers in Bangladesh as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is untrue. The Kendall and Kylie brand is owned by 3072541 Canada Inc., not GBG. The brand has worked with CAA GBG in the past in a sales and business development capacity only, but we do not currently have any relationship at all with GBG." So though they had been affiliated in the past, it was not the case anymore, and it was an unfortunate accident that the sisters were brought into the conversation. Kylie Jenner made history and truly became King Kylie when she was crowned Forbes' youngest self-made billionaire ever at age 21. It came out towards the end of 2020 that allegedly false tax returns had been used to prove Kylie's billionaire status. So she wasn't actually a billionaire, still very, very, very rich, just not a billionaire. She was close to almost there. Her updated net worth at the time when Forbes revoked the title was just under $900 million. A report was published in the magazine after they had realized that they had been lied to. The report accused Kylie's mom, Kris Jenner, of being a key player in the falsehood. In the report, Forbes said, "Kylie's business is significantly smaller and less profitable than the family has spent years leading the cosmetics industry and media outlets, including Forbes, to believe." The magazine did go on to clarify some things, saying, "While we can't prove that those documents were fake, though it's likely, it's clear that Kylie's camp has been lying." Today, Kylie Jenner's net worth is estimated to be about $700 million. The only member of the family with $1 billion net worth right now is Kim Kardashian with a net worth of around $1.7 billion.
From being rude rude to demanding more money, Sarah Jessica Parker can be a lot to handle. So that's why we're going to be talking about celebrities who hated working with Sarah Jessica Parker. Now, starting off strong, we have Kim Cattrall. The two stars may have played good friends on Sex and the City, but it turns out Kim and Sarah were nowhere as close in real life. Rumors of bad blood between the two co-stars began when Kim refused to participate in a third Sex and the City movie. Then, in an interview in 2018, Kim called out Sarah in particular. She said, "I really think she could have been nicer. I don't know what her issue is. I never have." Things escalated even further in 2018 when Sarah offered her condolences to her co-star after Kim's brother passed away, and Kim responded with a bitter Instagram post dismissing Sarah's words. "I don't need your love or support at this time, at Sarah Jessica Parker. You are not my family. You are not my friend," she posted. Now, Sarah, however, dismissed the idea that there was ever a catfight in an interview with Vulture that same year. "I've always held Kim's work in high regard and always appreciative of her contributions." Now, in the reboot of the show, And Just Like That, Kim wasn't asked to be a part of the revival, even though it features almost every series regular from the original show. Now, in the season 2 finale though, Kim did join the show and reprise her role, so who knows if their relationship is better now. Then there's Anya Taylor-Joy. Okay, so these two didn't work together, but they had an extremely strange encounter that I just had to share. Actor Anya Taylor-Joy was once such a fan who approached Sarah Jessica Parker, and she was a little embarrassed by the interaction, recounting the story during an appearance on the Drew Barrymore show in November 2022. "I was going through a really bad breakup, and I was like, hey, I just have to tell you, like, I've been watching you and Big, and it's giving me hope," Anya explained. And she was like, "Oh, that you'll get back together?" And I was like, "No, that I will survive, that I can like move on from this and that it will be okay." Now, apparently Sarah didn't take too kindly to this and said, "Okay, I'm gonna get in my car now." Of course, it remains unknown why Sarah wasn't quite sure how to respond to Anya's comments about Carrie and Big. She could have just said, "Ugh, I'm so glad," and carried on. But being caught off guard was probably the reason for this strange response, and Anya admitted to feeling pretty awkward about the exchange. The star did precursor her story by telling Barrymore, "It was a really bad moment for me," suggesting the meeting wasn't all that she hoped it would be. Yikes. Now we have Robert Downey Jr. As we all know, Robert Downey Jr. has had some substance issues, and this got in the way of his career and his relationships. Sarah Jessica Parker had a 7-year relationship with Robert, which ended in 1991. Parker said that her attempts to be the steadfast presence for Downey made her feel like a parent, though she was in her early 20s and both actors were struggling to make their names in the industry. "People around him would be dismissive of me, but I had given him stability and tried to create a steady heartbeat that allowed him to show up on time," she said. "That made me angry and embarrassed me." Downey, through a rep, told the magazine that he had great respect for Sarah. Speaking about the relationship, he said, "I was so selfish," he admitted. "I like to drink and I had a drug problem and I didn't jibe with Sarah Jessica because it's the furthest thing from what she is. Sarah Jessica would pull me out of a hangover and we'd go pick out furniture together. She is a force of nature," he said. Moving on, we have her staff. Now, some of Sarah's emails were leaked and it appears that she had some specific rules for her staff. She instructs her staff household to refill a tiny 1.75 ounce container of Vaseline with a small spoon or knife for her children to use. She stresses that the refill jar can't be too big so it doesn't clutter the house, and the cutlery used to dispense the Vaseline must be hand washed using a paper towel and then go through the dishwasher. She also requests that a bottle of face wash and Neutrogena body wash be continually replenished for her son, James Wilkie, in his shower. But she insists the staff not buy multiples of anything and instead wants them to check the levels of each product daily, only replacing them once the product has completely run out. Now, another email included her shopping list for Taco Tuesday, which included whatever meat goes in tacos. Yeah. Then, when the New York family had pink eye, she sent the team specific instructions on how eye drops should be given to her 8-year-old twin daughters at the time, Tabitha and Marion, including how hard they should blink. Yeah. Next up is Oprah. Sarah was once on Oprah's show, and Oprah's gushing all over her, telling her how great it is that she's taking care of the family and how much work it must be. Sarah said though, without missing a beat, "I have a lot of help, I have a lot of people helping me," which of course is true. She's a multi-millionaire Hollywood celebrity, married to another multi-millionaire Hollywood celebrity, and she has her own household staff cooking and cleaning and taking care of her kids and running errands and all of that, and she wasn't afraid to admit it and give props to the mothers who don't. But Oprah wasn't having it. Oprah doesn't like it when it's pointed out that very rich, pampered celebrities have it a whole lot easier than regular people who do actual work for a living. Now, Oprah kept trying to get Sarah to admit that being a mother was a lot of hard, difficult, grueling work, and Sarah just wouldn't say that. She kept saying that it's not that hard when you've got a big staff of people helping. Seems like Oprah doesn't like her for telling the truth. And finally, we have all her Sex and the City co-stars. Now, fans of Sex and the City have always adored the chemistry between the show's four main characters, but Jessica's Carrie remained the lead throughout the duration of Sex and the City, and this was allegedly reflected in their salaries. According to Us Weekly, Sarah was reportedly earning as much as $3 million per episode, while her castmates were allegedly taking home approximately $350,000 an episode, which is just crazy. Now, the spin-off, And Just Like That, sees the trio reportedly taking home $1 million per episode, proving that negotiations had moved a lot since 2004. Now, during an appearance on the Origins with James Andrew Miller podcast, executive producer Michael Patrick King defended the disparity, saying, "The show doesn't exist if Sarah Jessica wasn't the blonde star of the show." I guess for Kim it didn't matter how much the raise became if there was never parody, but there was never going to be parody. Yikes. I cannot imagine doing pretty much the same amount of work as someone, but they're getting paid 10 times more than me. Now, that's honestly just disgusting, and I can't believe Sarah's co-stars put up with that. Well, that's all for our list of the celebrities who hated working with Sarah Jessica Parker. Now, it sounds like she can be a straight up nightmare sometimes, but hopefully she gets better at treating people nicer, but who knows?
Even though Hathaway has faded from being used as a regular term today, I feel like we really need to name and shame the folks who contributed to it being a reality. Never mind if what they had to say was, true or not, because of how much it affected poor Annie's career and reputation. Starting off with the trouble with the 2011 Oscars, which was infamously hosted by Anne and James Franco, well, it started well before showtime. The messy showcase has gone down in history as one of the worst Academy Award ceremonies of all time. Not the worst, but it's up there. When it came time to film stuff for the show ahead of time, Anne showed up ready to play, she was committed 110%, and James was described as being a great guy, but looked like he just woke up for a nap. Somebody described it as, you're showing up to a tennis court, one person decided that they were going to play in the US Open, the other one just wanted to play in jeans and maybe hit a couple of balls. A source who wrote for the live telecast says that he remembers hearing that the friction started when Anne decided to offer James Franco a stray acting note during rehearsals. She was like, "Hey, maybe you should try that." And he was like, "Don't tell me how to be funny." Yeah, it's no surprise they never cemented any kind of bond. Watching it was like the world's most uncomfortable blind date between the cool stoner kid and the adorable theater camp cheerleader. Apparently they've, kissed, made up now, but that all just sounds like the worst combination of creative hell possible. I'm fully aware that quoting Howard Stern is low-hanging fruit, but he's the walking definition of someone who has managed to make a career out of being a hater, and well, that was relevant for today. During an interview with James Franco, he said, "Everyone sort of hates Anne Hathaway, and I've explained that I do too, and I don't even know why sometimes. She's just so affected and actressy that even when she wins an award, she's out of breath. And then she has a standard joke that sounds like it's been written for her, and it all seems so scripted and acted. She comes off like the goody two-shoes actress and is just sort of fun to hate her." Howard went on to add, "Hate is a strong word, but I dislike her even though she's a great actress. Is that accurate?" James was like, "Well, I'm not an expert on Hathaway haters, but I think that's what maybe triggers it." Wow, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Not only that, but he had the audacity to talk about the disastrous Oscars hosting together, making it sound like she was the one who came begging to become friends with him again, instead of the other way around. Let the history books show he's the one who begged her to host with him. In the years leading up to Judd Apatow's Knocked Up, Anne Hathaway had proven herself to be one of the industry's most exciting rising stars. Seeing as before this she'd done Brokeback Mountain, Devil Wears Prada, Princess Diaries, she was becoming more and more sought after by the minute. Her prowess, her undeniable charm, they captivated this director's attention, and he was like, I think she's the perfect lead for my rom-com. But she backed out last minute after part of the script was like, not meshing with her. This was the scene that depicted a woman explicitly giving birth, and Anne was like, "I think this is unnecessary to the storyline." In her own words, "I turned down Knocked Up because it was going to show a vagina. Not mine, but somebody else's. And I didn't believe that it was necessary to the story." Now, yes, the director did say there's no bad blood now, but apparently back in the day that wasn't the case. Leaving a director scrambling last minute isn't the girl boss move Anne thought it was, and it only added to her diva reputation, which I'll touch on more in a moment. Looking back, movies like Knocked Up were kind of like the epitome of early 2000s romantic comedies that were very much a product of the times. And while a lot of folks still appreciate such films, yeah, you Can't deny the oddly unsettling storylines, the dated language, all of which perfectly reflect some of the era's biggest shortcomings regarding societal acceptance and inequality. Richard Lawson of the Atlantic Wire told Hollywood.com that Hathaway has this theater kid thing where she adopts the mood of every situation she's in. Rude and bawdy on Chelsea Lately, poised and classy at the Oscars, but wildly overcompensating every single time. Now he continued on like that wasn't all he had to say. She always seems like she's performing, and her favorite act is this overstated humility and graciousness. On the other hand, writer Victoria Wellman is one half of the Oratory Laboratory, a site that helps craft client speeches. And part of Anne's problem is just the actress is one of those people who doesn't really come off as sincere. Take, for example, her award show speeches. I've talked about it a bit today. The whole point of award shows is that nobody knows who's going to win, and the audience counts on that element of surprise to be part of a winner's speech. But Anne's words of gratitude came off as way too rehearsed, not the usual like, oh my god! And the more you rehearse something, the more kind of presumptuous it comes across. Like, yes, we are used to seeing actors act, but we do want to see a glimpse of their personality. So when it came to the Golden Globe speech, it was just very word for word. So, is she just a phony after all? Or is she someone who wants desperately to fit in and she's trying her best? I'll let you decide in the comments. I don't think Matt Lauer is on the top of anybody's most liked list these days, and it's pretty obvious why. But hey, back in the day when this man was still employed on the Today Show, he had a pretty icky interaction with Annie that needs to be noted. So, 2012, Anne's on a press tour for Les Mis, and a photographer crouched down as she got out of a car and he got an upskirt photo, which was a horrifically sleazy thing for this pap to do. But then Anne was a guest on Today, and Matt was like, that's a you problem. Specifically, he opened it with like, nice to see you. And then, seen a lot of you lately. Now, Anne did her best. She tried to play it off as though he's talking about the oversaturated press cycle. She's just like, yeah, I'd be happy to stay home, but the film, like, she's doing her best. And Buddy's like, let's just get it out of the way. You had a little wardrobe malfunction the other night. And like, he raised his eyebrows, like, she's right there. And the guy's just like, what's the lesson learned from something like that? Other than you keep smiling, which you always do. It was just so icky and gross. Ugh, men. Now, Anne's response was very, very graceful. She was like, it was obviously an unfortunate incident, and it kind of made me sad on two accounts. One was that I was very sad where we live in an age where somebody takes a picture of another person in a vulnerable moment, and rather than delete it and do the decent thing, they sell it. And she's like, I'm sorry that we live in a culture that commodifies the sexuality of unwilling participants. And she's like, that brings us back to Les Mis. Like, very good. The fact that the conversation even acknowledges the fact that what happened to her was a violation of privacy, but an attempt to humiliate her for the fact of possessing a female body? Ugh. It just hurts my brain. Matt frames the conversation as though what happened to her was an error on her part that she's got to learn a lesson from. And just his way of doing it and his instinct to raise the question in the first place reinforces this awful ideology where women's bodies are both inherently humiliating and public property. It's this ideology that helps perpetrate a culture in which men can just, harass and do whatever they want to women in private and get away with it. And well, now that we know about Matt, I'm not surprised. Anne has had a couple of other stories come out about her supposed diva behavior, by the way. For one instance, she reportedly sent a list of demands before agreeing to attend the Pink Party Gala, which was a cancer research charity event. According to Radar Online, an email to those working the gala says her team was getting really concerned that people would try to approach her for photos and autographs. Now, they've said like other celebrities who would be attending didn't make those kinds of demands. One source told In Touch that everybody was asked to not talk to her. And apparently the event staff was like, yeah, I know in the past our hosts have mingled at the party, but everybody's different and we want to respect her space. And sure, people respected her space, but it seemed like she still wasn't having a good time. The source revealed she was so rude and acted like a bitch to a couple of people that she did speak to. She just sat there rolling her eyes all night. Not a good move, girl. Anne was apparently a nightmare to deal with for an on-set chef, setting back her breakfast multiple times. For context, she was shooting a commercial on the Paramount lot and she wanted to order an English muffin, a poached egg, and an avocado for breakfast. TMZ reported that she sent the dish back not one, not two, 4 times. So the first time the meal was brought to her, apparently the poached egg was too runny. So sent it back. And then the next time, now her English muffin is too cold because it was sitting there waiting for the egg to be poached. Okay, I guess she has to have all of her food together at the same time in order to eat. So then her English muffin was taken away, but maybe she just didn't eat it? Nevertheless, it looks like it went to waste for no good reason. Now, 4th time around, the meal is perfect. But apparently it took so long that now Anne was in the mood for a fried egg. So she wasted this entire meal that she originally wanted just to change her mind. Not it. I don't like wasting food. So I know I've mentioned a couple of other journalists earlier today, but then there's still some notable ones that have also had some things to say about Anne, such as Anne Friedman, pun not intended, who is well known for being an incredible journalist. This one stood out to me. She took a poll amongst peers about their opinions on Anne, and the results were not nice. She's that theater kid with good intentions, but secretly annoys the shit out of you. You want to be excited for her, and like you are, but deep down you're just rolling your eyes. And also, I think someone told her she was America's sweetheart and she believed it. One friend in particular placed Annie in the category of really affected drama queens, saying I can imagine her non-ironically yelling acting. In other words, she's always on stage, always calculated, not someone whom you'd want to party with or share your deepest secrets. You can't trust her, that's not good. So way back before Margot Robbie was in the conversation to become the iconic Barbie we all know and love today, Anne was announced as being attached to the project, but then got ditched when it transferred from Sony to Warner. I wonder what the execs at Warner had against her, unless they know something we don't. And how about we end today with Annie's poor choice and an ex-boyfriend, Raffaello Folieri. He went to prison in 2008 for 4.5 years after he pleaded guilty in Manhattan federal court to 14 counts of conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering. Anne didn't break up with him until like right before he went to prison, and you've got to question her ethics for not breaking up with him sooner. Like, how did she not know this? Like, how did she not notice the guy was a scam artist? Like, I feel like that would have been obvious.
Tim Allen, Will Smith, and Dustin Hoffman are just a few stars who made it difficult to work with. So let's take a look at part 2 of our list of the top 10 celebrities that warned us about their co-stars. Let's start off with Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman play feuding exes in Kramer vs. Kramer, which seems similar to their off-screen dynamic. When Meryl first heard about the film, she was mourning the death of her boyfriend, fellow actor John Cazale, who died in 1978. Now, according to a 2016 book about her life, Her Again, Becoming Meryl Streep, Dustin slapped Meryl across the face, taunted her about the recent death of John, and even shattered a wine glass next to her without telling her. He was goading her and provoking her, said producer Richard Fishkoff, using stuff that he knew about her personal life and about John to get the response he thought she should be giving in the performance. Now, Meryl told the New York Times, "It was my first take in my first movie, and he just slapped me. It was overstepping." Now, that wasn't the only time that he allegedly mistreated her during this time. She also claims that he touched her on one occasion, threw a wine glass against a wall near her head, and raised his voice and criticized her. Up next is Julia Roberts. In a 1993 interview with the New York Times that took place during filming I Love Trouble, lead actress Julia Roberts described her relationship with Nick Nolte, saying that while he can be completely charming and very nice, he also is completely disgusting. "He's gonna hate me for saying this, but he seems to go out of his way to repel people." Nick then responded by saying, "It's not nice to call someone disgusting, but she's not a nice person. Everyone knows that." Now, things were so bad that it was reported that they acted more with stand-ins than they did with each other. Their relationship has seemingly not progressed since, as they still appear to hold animosity towards each other today. Then there's Casey Wilson. In an interview of her podcast, Casey Wilson accused Tim Allen of being so effing rude when she guest starred on The Santa Clauses, his Disney Plus spin-off of the Santa Claus movies. Tim Allen was such a B, the actor said, while recalling shooting a scene in which Tim, playing Santa, enters her character's home and she confuses him for an intruder. He goes over to the producer, who is standing 4 feet from me, and goes, "And I heard him. He goes, 'You gotta tell her to stop stepping on my lines,' she said. The producer then turns to me with horror on his face and has to walk 1 foot to me, and he goes, 'Tim would ask that you stop stepping on his lines.'" Casey said that everybody was walking on eggshells, people just looked frantic, and when he was done, he was so effing rude. He never made eye contact, never said anything. It was so uncomfortable. Now, after they finished filming, she remembered Allen announcing that he was leaving before dropping his Santa coat on the floor and walking out. Let's talk about Janet Hubert. In 2020, Will Smith admitted to making the set very difficult for his Fresh Prince of Bel-Air co-star Janet Hubert. During a one-off reunion on HBO Max, Janet, who played the original Aunt Viv and left the series in 1993, reconciled with Will after a 27-year-long feud, telling him she felt like he banished her. Will then acknowledged making things hard for her, stating he felt like everything was a threat to him when he was on the show. "I can see now the level of pain and the level of struggle that it was just for you to show up every day," he said. To which Janet responded, "But you took all that away from me with your words. Words can kill. I lost everything, reputation, everything. And I understand you were able to move forward, but you know those words, calling a black woman difficult in Hollywood, is the kiss of death." Then there's Alex Pettyfer. While they played friends in Magic Mike, Channing Tatum and Alex Pettyfer were not so close in real life. Channing Tatum does not like me, for many reasons, many being my own fault, Alex said in a 2015 interview on Bret Easton Ellis's podcast. According to Alex, tensions began because he was very insecure as a human being during filming and decided to keep to himself off set. That gave me a bad rep because they said, oh, Alex thinks he's effing better than everybody else because he doesn't speak to anyone. Now, their relationship allegedly only worsened when Alex rented an apartment from a friend of Channing's and moved out before paying the 4 months back of rent he owed. Now, currently Channing has never publicly responded to Alex's comments. Moving on to Nicolette Sheridan. Desperate Housewives actor Nicolette Sheridan once went as far to call her co-star Terry Hatcher the meanest woman in the world, according to the show's writer Mark Cherry. Now, there is speculation that Nicolette wasn't the only star who didn't get on with Terry. In 2018, Felicity Huffman posted a tribute to the show online, complete with personalized messages for each of her former co-stars, with the exception of one person only, Terry. That same year, Eva Longoria appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live and claimed that the stars were all still very good friends, before correcting herself with 99% of us are. Now, after the finale aired and amid widespread rumors about the feud, Terry said to TV Guide, "I will never disclose the true and complicated journey of us all, but I wish everyone on the show well." Then there's George Takei. Despite being 2 of the 4 surviving cast members of the original Star Trek series, William Shatner and George Takei are still feuding. George previously told the New York Times that William was not a team player on set. He said the rest of the cast all understand what makes a scene work, it's everybody contributing to it, but Bill is a wonderful actor and he knows it, and he likes to have the camera on him all the time. Then after George mocked William's trip to space, William retaliated by telling Page 6, "There's a psychosis there must be something else inside George that is festering, and it makes him unhappy that he takes it out on me. Why would he go out of his way to denigrate me? It's sad, I feel nothing but pity for him." Now we have The Rock. Now, The Rock joined the Fast and Furious during the franchise's 5th film, and there was no reason to expect drama. But over the course of the next 3 movies though, The Rock overstayed his welcome. He and co-stars Tyrese and Vin Diesel exchanged a number of passive-aggressive Instagram posts. The feud between the 2 actors erupted during filming The Fate of the Furious in 2017, when The Rock took to social media to slam some unnamed co-stars. Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't. When you watch this movie next April and it seems like I'm not acting in some of these scenes and my blood is legit boiling, you're right, he said. Then in another Instagram post to celebrate the wrap of the film, The Rock thanked nearly everyone in the cast and crew, but made no mention of Vin Diesel, the film's co-producer. Up next is Joan Crawford and Betty Davis. When Joan Crawford died, Betty Davis coldly stated, "Joan Crawford is dead, good." Now, the pair were huge stars in the 30s, 40s, and 50s who just so happened to despise each other. Now, there were many reasons for their rivalry, including jealousy over a man and many attempts to undermine each other's careers. Now, despite their decades-long feud, they signed on to co-star in 1962's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Now, this might not have been the best idea though. While shooting a scene where Betty's character beats Joan's, Betty was reported to have hit Joan so hard that she needed stitches. Later, it was said that Joan got revenge by wearing a wrestler's belt in a scene where Betty, who had back problems, was supposed to drag her across the floor. Now, the feud went on for years after that, and it was so well known that their story was made into a TV show. Then the release of Betty's film Ex-Lady was overshadowed by news of Jones's divorce, and tossed in a love triangle involving another actor, professional grievances, public and private jabs, and this was a rivalry that lasted until Joan's death. And lastly, we have Aaron Spelling. Shannon Doherty was cast in 2 of Aaron Spelling's hit teen series, Beverly Hills 90210 and Charmed. Unfortunately though, she started to be a diva and be difficult and demanding, so she was eventually kicked off both shows. Now, her exit from Charmed was so bad that Aaron is said to have banned her from all future projects, and her diva reputation has seemed to keep her out of anything worth watching ever since. According to her former Beverly Hills 90210 castmate Justin Priestley, Shannon could be a nightmare. In his 2014 memoir, he claimed her arrogance was beyond the pale during the trip to New York. She apparently had issues with the car that had picked her up and took her to the airport, asking a Fox publicist, "Really, a town car? You sent a town car to take me to the airport, not a limo." Now, according to her book, Deep Thoughts from a Hollywood Blonde, co-star Jenny Garth got along with Shannon like gasoline in a match. At one point, Jenny was allegedly so fed up with Shannon's bad attitude that she lost her cool and yelled, "Come on, B, we're taking this outside." Now, fortunately, other cast members were able able to break up the fight before it turned physical. Then producer and writer Larry Mullen told Entertainment Weekly that Shannon didn't ask permission before getting a haircut, so her brand new do wound up destroying the continuity of the season 4 finale. Allegedly, that's what inspired fed up producers to finally kick her off.
Recalling how she was often called brave in her early days in Hollywood, Rebel Wilson tells People Mag, "Did I fight in a war? Run into a burning building? No, it was that I dared to exist in a town where only thin women were valued." Dropping on April 2nd, the 44-year-old star's memoir is set to air out her life experiences and Hollywood tales, and obviously drop a few bombshells, such as her strained parental relationship, which Rebel touches on quickly in her new book, reflecting that her parents, Sue and Warwick Bounds, worked on the dog show circuit and her family was, as she says, one baby step above being carnies. But we'll talk about that in our very last segment. She experienced a difficult relationship with her volatile father, including, as she writes, 30 seconds of terror one day, when she and her sister Liberty wet their mattresses with water to cool them down during a hot summer in Australia. To quote Rebel, Dad comes in, "What the hell are you two doing?" And he brings up his palm and he hits me. Whack. He hits my sister too, she writes. But as the eldest, Wilson says she was hit the hardest. After Wilson's father died from a heart attack in 2013, she wrote that she'd actually drafted up a letter that she tucked into his suit pocket. She forgave him and wrote that she would strive to find love and no longer be afraid of it. It'd be a long time before that was the case for Rebel, however, who would end up choosing to be a willful sellout in order to get herself on her feet first. In 2002, Rebel Wilson was a law school student living at her family home in Sydney, sharing a bedroom with her sister. While she wanted to be an actor, she'd been rejected 4, soon to be 5 times from Sydney's National Institute of Dramatic Arts. Instead, she spent, quote, "all my money on law books, acting classes, and starting my own theater production company." Ultimately, Rebel does manage to save $2,000 and use it to produce The Westie Monologues, a play that lands her a tiny role in writer-director Paul Fench's film Fat Pizza. As Rebel writes, "This is when she learned the power of selling out. My cameo in the film Fat Pizza was so memorable, I was asked to be in the TV show of the same name. I played Tula, the overweight girlfriend of Habib. I make myself as fat and sloppy as I can. I wear unflattering eyeshadow colors and ill-fitting tracksuits. I eat donuts regularly to gain even more weight." Not everyone loved watching what Rebel made herself out to be in order to gain her fame. Quoting her, "Mom refuses to allow Fat Pizza to play in the house," she writes. "She doesn't want to see it because I look gross and she disapproves of my swearing in it. I flaunt my fat stomach on national TV, deliberately making myself look bad for comic effect. Mom doesn't understand. She just sees her daughter looking unsightly. I see an opportunity to break out. I was the first reoccurring female character on Fat Pizza who wasn't a sexy blonde bimbo." And she adds on that my role was to be the big fat whale that got laughs, and I willfully played into that. That is definitely a path less traveled that Rebel chose to follow for a female comedian, and it's one that does intimidate male peers who believe women couldn't or shouldn't be this way, let alone be funny. Rebel shares examples of sexist experiences she had as a result in writers' rooms. To quote her after Fat Pizza, "My next big job was on a weekly sketch show on Network 10 called The Wedge. When I was cast, I was the only lead female writer and performer. The rest were guys. We all pitched characters and scripts we wanted to film, and I came up with some good ones, including Lucy Webster, Fat Mandy, and Carla and Kiki Bangs. I was becoming popular, and some of the men working on the show didn't exactly like the influence I was now wielding. To be honest, I think they were a bit shocked. I had 2 of the 3 highest ranking characters on the show. But by the second season, despite that high rank, Rebel writes that her popular characters and sketches were being ignored by production. To quote, "For months I would just sleep half the day in my designated office because no one was scheduling my sketches to be shot. There was nothing for me to do. I'd write scripts and they'd get ignored or rejected." Finally, Rebel confronts her friend working in production as to why she's being snubbed. "I blasted my friend in the office, which wasn't exactly fair, but these men were, I don't know, at an expensive boozy boys lunch across the street. I yell as I point to the production board of upcoming shooting days. I'm completely red in the face. I never ever yell at people. To me, this is level 100. I'm furious. My friend tries to say some bullshit like maybe my scripts weren't developed enough. I can't believe she's siding with those bad people. Later, I'll come to realize maybe she has a mortgage as well." Rebel writes she did never speak to that friend again, and The Wedge was actually cancelled after its 2nd season. Ultimately, it's a good thing because it allows Rebel to make her big break, with quite a bit of fat shaming along the way. It was less than a year after The Wedge had been cancelled, in 2008, when Wilson starred in Bogan Pride, a 6-part TV series that secured her a meeting with agents in Los Angeles. scandalous. She went on to complete a law school degree at the University of New South Wales before moving to LA. On her second day there, she's signed by William Morris Endeavors. Finally, after 29 unsuccessful auditions, she lands a role in 2011's Bridesmaids. The hit film effectively launched her international career, and within 2 weeks of its release, she's booked 6 movies including Pitch Perfect. But in those 6 weeks alone, Rebel heard decades worth of weight commentary. I recall getting a lot of comments like, "Oh wow, you're so brave." These were normally meant as, "Oh wow, you in your size 20 body strutting down the red carpet like you're hot? That's so brave." Or, "Oh wow, you're so obese, but you still get in front of the camera and smile. That's so brave." I was really put off by these comments, which 99% of the time came from other women. Why am I so effing brave? Because I'm just me? Rebel writes, continuing that the way they kept going on about being brave made me wonder how many negative comments were these women getting about their bodies in their daily life. I seemingly didn't care about society's pressure to be thin, but that pressure was so great in women's minds that it was as if I was fighting a war against the patriarchal gaze. Worse yet is Rebel explained that there is no collegiate or no supports between plus-size celebrities in Hollywood, who instead often belittle or make fun of each other's weights to deflect from their own. To quote her, "Some actresses would get offended if I called them plus size in this book, so I have to be careful with what I say. This is why I think Adele hates me," Wilson writes. "There was a moment when she was bigger and some people would confuse us for one another. I'm assuming because, to be fair, I've never asked her why she hates me." Wilson added that Adele always quickly turned away from her whenever Wilson was heading in her direction, to quote, "as if my fatness might rub off on her if I were near her for more than 30 seconds. That she didn't like being compared to, quote, Fat Amy," Wilson penned, referencing the Pitch Perfect character. While Rebel only talks in a hypothetical comparison, as a human being who's been on the internet, I can say I've actually seen plenty of people in the past comparing these women, especially when they were famous simultaneously while looking facially similar and being the only plus-size celebrities in the spotlight of the time. Ultimately, Rebel would go on to have a highly complicated relationship with her weight and an eating disorder, a combination coming from her consistent typecasting requirements and her mental illness that launched her career. Rebel references this struggle many times throughout the novel, such as when she returned to her LA apartment after shooting Pitch Perfect. To quote, "I'd had such a blast, made all these incredible new friends, and then just disappeared overnight. It sucks. The loneliness is back big time. I start yet another draft of my sitcom Super Fun Night. I order a family-sized pizza even though I know I shouldn't. I discover these amazing ice cream sandwiches in a shop down the road. I buy them almost every night, except for the nights where I'm trying to be good and I don't eat any junk food, only to obsess about the junk food I'm not eating, pretty much sitting on my hands so that I don't raid the fridge. It takes all my energy not to eat the sugar." Rebel writes that the binge eating felt like a battle between guilt and impulse. "Ah, I'm Fat Amy now. I can eat this tub of ice cream," the little devil inside me says. "They might need you for reshoots. You have to stay fat. You did 60 minutes on the treadmill plus weights today at the gym. You can eat dessert. You deserve it." But for every self-indulgent thought like that, Rebel had a shameful one. She writes, "But I know that this behavior isn't exactly healthy. I feel gross. And maybe if I lost weight, someone might fancy me. I'd love for someone to love me. But then there comes that little demon response. Everybody loves you, stupid. You're Fat Amy now." Only to have the shameful part of herself reminder, no one's going to love me like this. No one's asking me out on a date, are they? Rebel remarked that in that moment, that thought seeped into her core. She hadn't been on a date in 16 years by that point, and it was a thought she couldn't stomach. In fact, Rebel wouldn't have a date or lose her virginity until she was about 35. As revealed in her memoir, she was initially terrified when it came to physical intimacy. "I was either so innocent in my teens or so busy making myself look grotesquely unattractive for comedic purposes that no romantic opportunity ever presented itself," she wrote. Rebel shared an interview with People Mag recently, as well as how she'd previously lied and told people she'd lost her virginity just to avoid questions. The book details her relationship with producer named Mickey, who she met via setup and lost her virginity to during a fling while filming How to Be Single. "Mickey flew in that weekend," she wrote, "and then it just happens. I finally have intercourse. I feel amazing. I go to the bathroom and I high-five myself." It's actually that same year that Rebel loses her virginity, 2016, that she experiences harassment on a film set that she'd hide until 2024. Only vaguely alluded to before now, Rebel cuts through red tape in her new memoir and airs out how Sacha Baron Cohen made her working experience on the Brothers Grimsby predatory and uncomfortable. She says she felt humiliated by that comedian who allegedly repeatedly pestered her to do a nude scene in the film. "It felt like every time I'd speak to SBC, he'd mention he wanted me to go naked in a future scene." Wilson went on to explain that while the film was shooting in Cape Town, South Africa, she was summoned by Cohen via production assistant, saying she needed to film an additional scene. Rebel writes that once she walks into his room, SBC pulls his pants down and says matter-of-factly, "Okay, now I want you to stick your finger up my, And I'm like, what? No. Wilson continued to write, I was now scared. I wanted to get out of there, so I finally compromised. I slapped him on the ass, improvised a few lines as the character. The Struck by Lightning star said that after the scene, she called her agent and lawyer, but was encouraged to be professional and finish the film. She writes, the movie bombed, which to me was karma enough. I'm not about canceling anybody, and that's not my motivation for sharing the story. I'm sharing it now because the more women talk about things like this, hopefully the less it happens. Rebel had just popped her cherry and obviously experienced some uncomfortable times along the way, but it would take her quite a while to realize she wasn't heterosexual and, to quote her, was looking for a Princess Charming, not Prince. After meeting fiance Ramona Agruma, however, Rebel underwent the hurdles of fertility issues next, writing that in 2020 a fertility doctor told her only if she lost weight she'd have a better chance of harvesting quality eggs. But even after losing 80 pounds, a doctor told Rebel and Ramona that the embryo she created with the sperm donor didn't appear strong enough to be viable. I felt such sadness, Rebel writes. I'm so alone and I don't know what to do. After another round of egg harvesting, her last viable embryo was implanted into a surrogate. Thankfully for the couple, they were able to welcome their daughter Royce Lillian in November 2022. So, reaching the end of our video, I want to bring us back to 2015 and Rebel's very stupid scandal. I found it interesting to hear this Aussie actress was doing a memoir after she'd been prior called out for lying and misrepresenting massive parts of her life in the aforementioned year of 2015. Prior to then, Wilson was believed to be 29 and had at various points claimed to grow up in the ghetto with bogan, aka working class parents. It was revealed shortly after Pitch Perfect 2 by an Australian tabloid that Wilson was actually 35 and that her real name, despite insistence otherwise, was Melanie. Now at the time of this first revelation, Salon's Rachel Kramer Bussell commented that this is just part of the experience of being an actor in Hollywood. Creating a mythology is just a way to work your way up, she went on to say, inventing new names, backgrounds, family histories, and yes, ages. But then time dug deeper into Wilson's records and found that she did in fact lie about her background and family history as well. Wilson's real name is Melanie Elizabeth Bounds, and despite having told the Australian Women's Weekly mag in 2014 that it's actually Melanie Elizabeth Bounds, and the report also goes on to find that Wilson did not grow up in the ghetto like she told Ellen DeGeneres in 2013. She actually attended upper crust Tara Anglican school and lived in the comfortable Castle Hill area. She makes references to her broke parents who were just above carnies in her memoir, and it seems like Rebel might just be lying again when she does. Which, let's be real, a stage name is one thing, but don't lie about your biography because in this day and age, it absolutely will be publicly debunked, which it already has, and she's referencing a debunked story again. So,